It's almost time, get your dag hats on.
There's a little child in the backyard hanging from a tree, and the ground never seemed to be so far away from my feet. And as the years speed by, I take a long look back, and the ground seems farther from my feet. Life's so hard to keep on track. Every time I see myself, know what you don't say here. Writing's no longer on my wall, written all over me. I can't change the way I live. You wanna say I'll get by. Every time I go to the mirror, tells me who I am. Take me to the other side and show me someplace I can't hide. That's the way I'm going back. It's giving me a heart attack. Yeah, you gotta take off, go look and read now. Take me to the other side and show me someplace I can't hide. That's the way I'm going back. It's giving me a heart attack. Yeah, you gotta check off, go look and read now.
You're listening to Dag. It's the Dag Show, featuring Dag and some other people.
And some other people. How you doing, everybody? Welcome to the Dag Show with Dr. Felicity and Dag.
It's good to be back.
Good.
Hey,
It's-
hey, hey.
We had a week off there
We did.
in between our normal time.
Mental
And-
health break.
Mental health break. Yes. Guess who is going mental in his health? That would have been me. But anyway, thank you for joining us tonight. I always love when you're here, and we got a bunch of things to talk about. So here's what I'm going to do: give people another chance to join in. I'm going to play another song. My first song was "Read Me" off my last album.
Really?
Yeah, that was me. You didn't know
That's
that was me.
impressive. And I was like bopping to it.
You were bopping to it. Well, I'm going to play another. Tonight's an all Dag show.
Wow.
An all Dag show
All
night.
dag all night.
So I'm going to play a song apropos to this evening, a post I put up this week, and it's called "Hate Train," and it's off the Read Me album.
Okay.
And then let's get you guys back here. Like, share, and follow. Get your friends involved. Tonight we're going to talk about spirituality, healing. We're going to talk about some other things. Dr. Felicity had an organizer come to her house. She's not perfect either. So she had her organized garage in her house, or garage organized, her organized garage, her garage organized and her house organized, and so on, etc. So she was
Very
really
excited about it.
Yeah. So it's nice to see her excited about stuff other than trying to fix me, which is an uphill battle for the rest of her life. Thank God she's much younger than me. But we'll be right back here on the Dag Show, and this is the Hate Train from the Read Me album.
Hate train.
We'll be right back here on the Dag Show with Dag and Dr. Felicity Joy. Oh,
Hate Train.
Hate Train, Darren Edwards Project. That's me. From 1997 album Read Me, and this is the greatest post I've ever seen on my page. You're not going to believe it, but I love the Read Me album. Not to age it, but Mandy Johnson gave it to me back in the 4th grade, and I listen to it all the time. That's Joe Stewart, and Mandy Johnson is my daughter. It's my oldest daughter, the chicken. Yeah. Wow.
How
That's kinda
crazy
cool.
is that?
That's kind
I
of fun
love
and
that.
funny. Thank you, Joe. That
I
was an
love that.
awesome post. Thank you for sharing that with us. Let's say hi, Thomas. How you doing, brother? I'm glad to see you here. Robert Woodell is here. Hey, Robbie, what's going on, man? And Steve is here. And I can't go through all these. Kimberly, Kelly, Dawn. Yeah.
My friend
Frank
Marvin said he didn't
Frank
comment,
Hannigan,
but he liked
John
it.
Clevio. Yeah.
Yay.
So anyway,
We
like,
feel the
share, and follow.
love.
We feel the love, and tonight we're going to talk about some things. You know, this is kind of an interesting time in my life, and this is one of the reasons we hooked up. You know, this predates a lot of other things that I was with that I've been going through earlier or recently, but. It's been the last probably year or so for me has been a kind of a spiritual journey. And listen, I'm not a pastor. We're not getting all religious on you guys here tonight. It's not what we're talking about. In fact, I'm going to challenge some of these issues because I've been reading this new book that was given to me.
Look at that. Darren
Yeah.
has a Bible.
Yeah, it's the what's it called?
Life Application Study Bible.
Yeah, it's really neat. And if you know me, I'm not a hyper religious guy. I consider myself Catholic, but I've been rather agnostic a lot of my life, even though I was brought up Catholic. My friend Father Matt over at St. Patrick's in Yorkville, you know, he kind of started to change things for me about 3.5 years ago. And he's just such a kind man. And, you know, I resist. And I kind of have a different set of logic that falls aside of the religion, you know, but it falls in line with the ideals.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about that tonight with you because you are a doctor of you know, like theology, right?
My doctorate is in Christian counseling. I'm also a licensed minister.
Oh, okay. Don't get out about it. I'm right here. Jesus, oh, holy mackerel! But I want to start the show out here. You know, we've had it's been a busy. I was in Facebook jail for 7 days for saying the B word because they said bitch needs to make some waffles, and I was referring to Heather because everybody was from Infinity. The band Infinity was making fun of her about making waffles because the ongoing joke is Heather doesn't cook. So all I said was, bitch needs to make some waffles. Within 2 seconds, I was in Facebook jail.
Yeah.
So that was an algorithm that caught it was done. I appealed it, and they said no. You know, there's no looking at it going, hey, well, that's their friend.
In context, yeah.
Yeah. So it was really ridiculous. Let me get a little bass on you. Let me hear your voice real quick.
Bass.
Well, no, don't do the bass. I just don't want you to.
Now I'm like silly. I can't talk right.
So anyway, so they threw me in Facebook jail. So 7 days I spent in Facebook jail, and it's amazing how you completely fall off the radar in like 3 days. All of a sudden, everybody forgets you. So I'm like, Heather, you got to get some posts up, or they're going to completely forget about the Dag Show. That's how short the attention spans of people are now today.
How the algorithms work.
But you've had a busy week, so tell me about your having an organizer. You actually hired an organizer.
Yeah, I hired an organizer. I'm very excited about it. I'm actually a pretty organized person, but I met someone who just has a gift. Everyone has, different gifts and skills. She has the ability to walk into a room and be able to tell you, how to maximize your space. So she actually helped my mom, who has dealt with a hoarding problem for a really long time, and she changes people's lives. Like, when she went to see my mom wouldn't get rid of anything. She's like, look, I have all of these shelving units. I have all these bins. Just get things off the floor. So she organized her huge basement as well as dining room area. and which became like a second basement because the basement was like full of stuff. So now her basement's like a warehouse. It looks like a Walmart warehouse with shelving and everything's up. And then the dining room looks great, and it's set up with her computer, and she's actually able to work in there and everything like that. And just being able to walk on her floors has made such a difference. And because hoarding is a symptom of depression, you know, it could be low grade, whatever. But so getting that, and my mom has done a lot of inner work, but just that last little tentacle, because by now it's super overwhelming. So I go there once a week. We've gotten rid of like 3/4 of the stuff. She's like, chuck it, get rid of it. I don't care. And it's like that fast, just the beauty of walking on your floor. So just from my angle, so, you know, it's like if you grow up with an alcoholic, right? You either become an alcoholic or you're like, don't even get it near me. You know what I mean? So based on my mom, I'm a minimalist. I'm like, get rid of it. I don't want it. I can't buy a second of anything. I just don't want it. You know, like have a little bit of that. So, you know, when Raina, who's fantastic, came to me, she was like, yeah, you don't need a lot of help because, you know, you don't keep stuff. But my daughter has a little bit of those tendencies, and she bought so much stuff for her 18th birthday party, and it just made this horrible lump in our garage, and it just became gross. So now everything, but it's not just that we organize that. It's just that, I mean, we could sit out there and I could have a little band in my garage now. I mean, it's gorgeous. It's just stunning. So I don't know. I'm just really proud of it.
I mean, I like to have things, but see, now this is where I'm very different. Like I have these 2 trunks called Trunks of Life, and I'm actually going to have a third here. And they have all the important things in my life, you know, from kids' pictures to things they've drawn for me or given to me is you know, when you're in 2nd grade and you do the shopping at school with $1 or a pocket full of change, you know, and you buy your parents silly things. I save those things. I have all my radio show tapes in the Trunks of Life, recordings, original recordings on.
It's like a time capsule.
It's like a time capsule. But I hate a lot of shit. But I have my cabinet. I have this 1950s buffet cabinet, which is my cabinet of collectibles. Mm-hmm. And you know, I guess if you were to look in that, you'd go, it's hoarding, but it's all neatly organized. And that's about it. I mean, you see how I've lived for 4 months.
It's pretty sparse.
It's pretty sparse. And it's nice because there's nothing to worry about. There's no aggravation. There's nothing to dust.
No, it's a lovely thing. Like, yeah.
There's nothing to think about. It's that Einstein theory of I'm going to wear black pants and a white shirt every day. I don't want to waste any time thinking about what I'm going to wear. There's something to be said for that. Like I pick my clothes out every night the night before. Now I need more clothes because a lot of shit isn't fitting me, whatever the case may be. It's just getting old or whatever. It's worn out. But I pick my stuff out because I don't want to wake up in the morning and be burdened with what to choose. So every night I pick out my clothes. You know, in the same way, I come home every day and I put my wallet in the same place. Yeah. And I put my keys in the same place.
We're similar to that. I mean, we're both pretty organized people. I live, you know.
I don't organize my bills the same way.
Oh, well, yeah. That's a whole
everything else, like my tools, my personal belongings, super organized. My bills, not so much. That's kind of a shit show.
I live with a ton of adults now, and it's just having a system for other people to, you know, fall in line to. She helped me with my bathroom. She just told me what to do, and I did it for that part. The garage we did together. Right. I just took the day off to save a little money and just help her with it. So we knocked out the garage in like 2 hours, and then she gave me some instructions on the rest of my house. And it's just, everything's just so nice. Like everything, and I'm using the space better. I mean, there are little things that we do where we tend to like put things right where you can reach them instead of really push things back so that you can put a little bit more in there. So I don't know. It's just, I feel my schedule's pretty tight now, and being more organized just feels amazing because it feels like you said, I can concentrate on what's important.
It's like accomplishing something. When I pull out my clothes for the next day, it's like I've accomplished something.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I'm ready. So when I get up,
Yep.
This is why I like a Keurig. A Keurig is really expensive as far as coffee. I mean, I know I'm going to get, every time I say this on the show, I get messages from people that say, hey, you can go on Amazon and buy 14 million of these for $12. I don't even waste my time with that. It's like, I'm one guy, literally, you're wearing this, my little parka thing here, because
it's cold.
I'm putting a new boiler system in here, and then come to find out the new boiler system, if I put that in before replacing the water heater, which is older, I won't be able to get the new water heater in. So now I had to buy a new water heater. So I all the heat is shut off here, but I'm in a townhouse and I'm sandwiched, so it's okay, and I'm never here, and I don't even always sleep here. So it's like, okay, well, I don't need the heat on. As long as I can keep it 60 in here, I'm good. And 60 is a little cold for Dr. Felicity.
It is indeed.
It's 62 in here right now, but it's fine for me. And then you take a hot shower, you get dressed, and I'm out the door. I'm literally here for sleeping purposes only. And I have these projects that are starting, and it's just going to be absolute mayhem. But my stuff will be here in 2 weeks. Not this Sunday. I was going to do it this Sunday, but then I realized it's Easter. So
that's good news. I'm really happy about that. I was going to ask you about that.
Yes, everything's coming here the following Sunday. So
good.
Finally it'll be here. So I have to finish the taping and the taping work and stuff that I was doing, and then start painting, and then everything will be here.
Awesome.
And then a new water heater, new boiler. Because my house has all in-floor heating.
Just in time for summer when we won't need it.
I couldn't, I didn't want to do it because because there were so many problems with leaks. I was afraid that the minute I took it out, especially when it got to like 20 degrees, it was going to freeze the pipes, and it's all in the concrete, in the slab. So I'm like, I'm going to nurse this son of a gun along as long as I can until it started leaking so bad I had to turn it off. So at night, I curl up with myself, and it's actually, I like it chilly. I like it. I can sleep in a cold room.
Yeah.
As long as I have good coverage in my bed.
He thinks this isn't cultural, but most white men I know like it cold, and they wear shorts when you shouldn't be wearing shorts.
I don't wear shorts
most
ever.
Black women I know are cold all the time. So it's
that's
just
funny.
an interesting thing.
I don't know. That is kind of interesting. Let me see if I can pull.
Might be the African connection.
The African.
I like it warm.
Where is the? There it is. They moved it on me. So we'll see if that'll show up there. It might be easier to read than looking at these things here. Anywho, I got this book sent to me by a manager of the band Gravity of Youth.
Okay.
He's a really cool guy, and we've become really good friends. His name's Brent Spiewak. And he says, listen, give me your address. I go, I don't give my address out to people. He goes, give me your address. I want to send you something. And through all that stuff that I went through that you're aware of, it was amazing to me. I mean, I called you. Even when we were going to do the show last week, we talked, and I got my therapy session in with you, and we talked a lot about it. And you, and along with a bunch of other people, were very kind and very concerned, about how I was feeling. Listen, I'm a pretty strong dude when it comes to dealing with problems. So it was hard, But I do good under pressure. So throw some pressure on me, and I usually manage to work my way through it. Anyway, so many people reached out to me on Facebook and in Messenger, and friends that I haven't even talked to in a long time that I had no clue were watching the show.
Wow.
Were, reaching out to, sending me emails, because they had the old phone number that I had. And it was really heartwarming. It was really fantastic.
It's good.
But I've been in this, part of what wore me down wasn't the situation by itself. It was, what am I going to do to get to deal with to deal with it because, you know, I have this. I do a lot of reading, and of late, of the last 6, 7, 8 months, I've been doing probably even more on a lot of different issues, you know, psychological issues, you know, how do you overcome, and, you know, how do you help people? What do you do? You know, and
It's good.
how do you help yourself? And, you know, being in sales my whole life, I've been to pretty much every sales presentation class. And it's funny because a lot of those principles apply to your personal life.
Yes.
So I've been on this really great awareness train where it's like, listen, I just don't want to be mad and angry at anybody. And I'm not really a guy who gets mad. Not anymore, anyway.
Mm-hmm.
There was a time in my life where I was known to be a complete raging asshole, but not so much anymore. So it was really wonderful to get home and see this sent to me, and it came to me in a gift bag with a bunch of candy and stuff like that. It was really sweet. And then I called you first when this arrived, and then I called Brandt, who sent it to me, and you know, I was kind of emotional about it because, you know, it takes a lot to think about somebody that way and then go out of your way to package it up and send it off, you know, and pay it. To use your own money to send me a gift. Who the hell am I? Just some knucklehead in the music business, right? But it was wonderful, and when I talked to him, he says, listen, start in Psalms and start going through it. And again, for those of you just tuning in, this is not a religious program. Dag is not becoming a preacher. That's not what's happening here. But I found a lot of interesting things here to talk about. No, I'm burning incense. I always burn incense. I can't burn it when Heather's here. She hates it. You and all the shows have been a wonderful thing in helping me through my cancer treatments. Oh, Thomas, that's so sweet, man. Thanks, brother. I'm glad we could be here for you. Tom's a great guy.
This is why people reach out to you, though, because you are putting good out into the world intentionally, and you can't have it not come back. I mean, what you put out comes back.
Really, a lot of the things I put out are just really about me. I don't know if it helps anybody. I mean, no, I'm just kidding. Sometimes
it does.
Sometimes I try to do, you know, I put some attention to making sure that it's more than just about the show. You know, we want to make an impact on people's lives here at the Dag Show with music and rock and roll and you know, help clubs and help bands. But you know, this is a thing that's tough, is that in order to really make an impact, I have to share a lot of my personal experiences, which means my private life becomes kind of public. And it's interesting because I would really love to have a very private, personal life. But the minute I go out in public with my partner, it's now my personal life is public to some degree. Mm-hmm. And then it becomes an issue of how to manage where the boundaries are. And it happens so fast that you can't react fast enough. So let me give you an example. I meet a woman today, and I take her to a concert, and there's, you know, people there that want to meet Heather and I, you know, and I don't mean like there's hundreds. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not trying to blow smoke up our ass, but it is happening at every show. So, and then there's women who want to meet me. So you're my new date, and this is what you're contending with, right? So now automatically, you're not even necessarily dating me, but your life is freaking public because we're doing a show there. You might be excited and overwhelmed and want to come on and go, this is my new girl, Jane Doe, and, you know, whatever the case may be. And then all of a sudden you wake up in the morning and there's 60 dick pics in your messenger. People found you, think you're pretty, and you're just the girl who went on one date with Dag. So and you're going to take it one of two ways. You're going to take it as, wow, this is really impressive that this many people are interested in me out of the blue, or holy crap, what the hell do I do here now? So it's overwhelming on both sides. I can't imagine being like a really big celebrity, how bad that must be. No wonder they walk around with security and entourages. we've had situations where I've had questionable, like, I don't know that I want to talk to this person any longer, and I got nobody to get rid of them, and they're really close to me. So, to be in for me to be in a relationship means I have to have somebody who's super, super, super understanding, not insecure, not seeking out all the attention, doesn't mind it, but knows how to contend with it. That's like an impossible request.
No, it's not.
Well, for most people, because it's so much fun. What we do when we go out to a show is fun. It's a good time, and people are tipping a few and having fun. Their inhibitions come out, and it becomes this crazy thing. You got to wake up the next morning. It's not like just going to a bar and dancing and having a good time and having your man's best friend hit on you. This is a whole nother animal of epic proportions.
No, I mean, I appreciate what you're saying. All I'm saying is, you said it might be a lot for most people, but you're not looking for most people. You're just looking for one.
Well, and that's the thing, is that it can be very, the trials and tribulations, especially at my age, of trying to meet the right person that fits the criteria that I have is, and boy, did that sound terrible.
It's not terrible. Everyone ought to have criteria. It can't just be anybody, because you're a specific person, and you're also a person who's working on themselves, which means that it would be very difficult to be with somebody that doesn't do any work on themselves or is not interested in working on themselves. So it should make sense that each person is kind of looking for something specific. It's not specific to the place of like, you're not even in my league. Like, I can't even talk to you. It's not like that. It's just a matter of once the person you eventually find is going to be pretty specific and designed for the situation you're in, and you're going to be designed for the type of person that she is.
My brother said to me last night, he says, he's right about one thing. There's nobody on the planet who knows me better and more specifically than my brother Mike. Nobody. And he says, you have never, ever worked hard on a relationship unless the sex was amazing.
Okay.
Well, his point is that I'm looking for the wrong things.
Oh.
But I'm not even interested in a relationship if the sex ain't amazing. What's wrong with that? I gotta have amazing sex.
I don't really see anything wrong with that. Personally.
Yeah, I don't either. That's what I told him. I go, what's wrong with that?
It's a little bit backward in my economy of how to approach things, but here's the thing. Sex, I'm not a sleep on the first date kind of guy. I'm not. I'm not a sleep on the second date kind of guy. I kind of want to get to know you. I can see that passion building in our interactions. I don't need to have sex with you the first, the second, the third, the fourth date. Right.
That's not what I'm after. I'm looking at to see if that passion, if you look at me the right way, if I look at you the right way, because when you look at somebody and you have a connection, man, you feel it. It's like Superman lasers in your eyes, right? And you just and you want to touch one another, and I like that. You build up to it, like first, second, third, fourth, first, second, third base, home run. You do that in 4 dates. Minimum. I'm not asleep with a woman on the first date kind of guy. Now, I can't say that I've never done that, that I haven't been, but it wasn't a relationship thing I was after. It was just a weird thing, and I was younger then. Especially now at my age, it's not what I'm interested in. There has to be, a lot, and I'll feel that passion build, and then you get to the sex, and yeah, you rock the world, right? So, the this kind of self-preservation attitude I have right now, where I'm looking to really define what it is are the things that are important to me and how to deal with them, because it's not the things that are easy to cope with that are important to me. It's the struggles, and everybody's life has struggles. I don't give a shit how good your life is today. At some point, you run the risk and are likely to have a struggle.
Of
It
course.
could be you getting sick. It could be a blown transmission in your car. It could be, something that financially devastates your situation. It could be losing your job. It could be losing a very close family member.
I mean,
Things
it's
that
just called
imbalance
life.
you. Yeah,
it's
it's
just
called
life.
life.
That's all it is.
So how do you? So for me, how to contend with those things are important. This is why I don't want to be angry, because anger sucks the life out of you, man. It sucks the absolute life out of you. Being mad, being pissed off, then it slides you into this victim mentality where, well, woe is me. Well, you know what? Come on, man. Shit happens to everybody.
Exactly.
So, you can't. It's not a woe is me thing because your transmission went out or, whatever. You're not the victim. Well, let me ask you this.
Okay, go ahead.
Are you a victim if your husband cheated on you?
No, that's not. I don't really claim the victim thing, for anyone except innocent children, But I mean, everyone else, your life is made up of how you respond to life. Life having challenges is baked into the cake. Anger comes from this weird notion that if you're a good person or if you do certain things, you won't have any problems. Very strange. Very strange.
Why do people think that
Here's
way?
the interesting thing. Most people hear that that's a ridiculous statement, but they don't act like they know that. So when something actually bad happens, they freak out and they actually show you what they believe by freaking out. So they believe that if they're a good person and they do things right, bad things shouldn't happen. That's how people act.
I want everybody to notice how I did this perfect segue where we're going to go into religion here. It was like just a beautiful hawk floating through the sky with his wings spread, not having to flap them, and then boom, the mouse is dead. He just flies down from 80 feet in the air and kills the mouse.
Dead mice.
I think people are always looking for some kind of outward resolve, to things that there are things that just happen in life. Like I said, like your transmission blows. It just blows. It's just done. Right.
Yep.
Yeah. It doesn't matter how much maintenance you did to it. It's kind of like, being overweight. I mean, you can have two people in a family and one's thin and one's fat, and that's that. And they come from the same gene pool, and that's it. Their body metabolizes sugars differently than this one's. This one dies early. This one lives to be 200. It just happens. But life is always throwing you those curveballs. So what are you going to do to deal with them? For me, what I'm trying to figure out and have been for some time is how to not let them drag me down.
There you go. That's the whole point.
I don't want it. I don't want to be drugged down by the disappointment because it's too easy to be mad. It's so easy to be angry and frustrated with any situation, whether it be your car, your financial situation, your job, your relationship. It's too easy to be mad. It takes so much work to fix things. When a house falls, it takes a second for a tornado to tear your house down, but it takes you freaking 8 weeks to build it back up with a crew of 20. That's what life is. So you have to be prepared for those things. And I just don't want to be upset about anything anymore.
Good. No, that's a great goal because anger doesn't solve any problems. So there's nothing in that. Like once you realize that life breaks down but also can be fixed, then you need to just stay in a posture of being able to correct things. And by being peaceful, just chilling about things, you're able to correct things. And so that really is the right. You cannot control what happens to you. You can control your response. And here's the thing. The goal of life is in having mastery. Mastery. Honestly, life wasn't...
Explain that.
Life
Explain what
wasn't
you mean, mastery.
Life wasn't constructed to be complicated. when God designed everything, he wasn't trying to, let me see how I can trick him. It's actually so simple that people miss it. Because life is hard, they can't receive that actually the answers of life are super simple. That's too easy. I didn't say it was easy. I said it was simple. There's a difference between that. Now, it becomes easy the more you walk down the right path, because you're like, man, this works. Man, it worked again. My God, it keeps working. Yeah, it just keeps working like that.
See, here's where I kind of disagree with you on one thing. One thing you said, and I used to use this in sales training all the time in working with new people that were, learning to be positive, because you have to be very positive when you work in a world of constant rejection, right? So, but life really isn't that hard. It really isn't. If you wake up tomorrow, if you're lucky enough to wake up, and hopefully everybody is, you wake up, you take in a breath of air, and you have a few decisions to make. Do I get a cup of coffee? Do I make the bed? Do I take a dump? Do I go to the bathroom? What am I going to do, right? Very simple decisions. Now, you might have some obligations which require you to go to work. These aren't hard things you have to go through. Life is very simple. What we do is we overcomplicate our life with wants and needs and what we believe we're entitled to. And I'm going to tell you firsthand, I was that guy, the $400 shoe guy, shopping at Nordstrom's once a week when they were closed and then having them deliver my clothes. I deserved it. I earned it. I believed that I was entitled to this. And I was paying for it. So technically, I guess I was entitled to it. But the whole process of doing it, it's funny. When I took Linda one time, I said, come on down to my office and be here at 8:30. We'll go have a drink next door, and then we show up at the mall, and they're closing. And she goes, they're closed. I go, no. Oh, the guy saw me. They go, Mr. Rebley, come on in. Took me upstairs. We went right up to Nordstrom's. They locked the whole place down, and it was 2 stories in the mall. And this is what an arrogant dick I was at that time, okay? So I'm upstairs in the men's department. She's downstairs. The staff is staying. We're buying Ellie Tahari and Polo and Mont Blanc pens. It was like watching Little Punk go out with his first royalty check, just piss it away. But I did this every week or two, and you start to feel entitled to that lifestyle. When the reality is that you might be up to a certain point because you've earned it, but when do you start to kind of violate the respect of the opportunity of earning it? Is that making any sense? It
does, but the issue in that is, what hole are you trying to fill in doing that?
Well, therein lies the freaking problem. So now
really the stuff is not the problem.
So this is where I'm saying, now you go back and you go, look, at my life is way easier and way better now without all the pressure of that bullshit, without all the pressure of a Porsche and a freaking Hummer and a Cadillac and the big house and the pool boy and all the nonsense. My life is so much simpler with that fucking recliner. Mm-hmm. It is way simpler. I have so much less to think about and so much more I can that will deliver me the same results without trying to impress anybody.
Yeah.
You follow me?
Yeah. I mean, it's just important for each person to determine what it is for themselves. Like, that's your journey, right? But it is okay for someone else to want those things. It's just a matter of why do you want those things. It's
like when people have, too many vehicles and they got payments on them all, that's all great. That's cool. Wow, that's a really nice truck, nice Cadillac. You got all that, but you got $1,800 a month in payments. Now, if you had those assets free and clear and they were 3 years old as opposed to brand new, would your neighbors be any less impressed? Or why would you have to impress them to begin with?
That's the issue.
Why wouldn't the Impala be good enough? And then your assets are all free and clear. So in case you had a stroke or you and the wife were killed in a car accident, your kids aren't trying to pay off 82 loans and wind up with a $500,000 insurance policy where there's still $93,000 owed. You follow me? So as I come in full circle here, what I'm trying to say is you'll find more out of less, but you'll find more of yourself. And finding more of me and being ultimately what I want to be, and I want to be remembered as, is a good person. A person who says, okay, this is a guy who's had a lot of struggles in his life. He has a lot of reasons to be angry, maybe pissed off about things from childhood all the way on. But instead, he finally took it easy and just said, okay, I want to be this guy, and I want to be best for if I'm really good for myself, I can be great for the people that care about me.
Yes. It's good. I mean,
you have this look on your face like I confused you or pissed you off.
Nope.
Oh, all right.
It's really hard to piss me off.
It's hard to make me mad too.
Because, for the same reason. It just doesn't solve anything. And I believe things are solvable. The only thing I was distinguishing is there's a difference between simple and easy. And, there's a difference.
Put your question up. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
Put your question up there, John Riley.
Go ahead.
By all means,
Riley.
put it up there. Go ahead.
So it's just when, for example, I think finding a mate is very simple because I've learned this and I've studied it and now I've applied it with several people, right? But if I come and told you a month or two ago that it was easy and what the hell's wrong with you, that's insensitive. So all I'm saying is I understand that it's difficult for some people. Like, I understand life gets really confusing and we get our head in our butt and we just can't see. So sometimes it is hard, but it's not complicated. It's not. The answer is going to be simple. So it's just little distinctions in terminology because you want to be sensitive when people are having a hard time. And just to say, it's easy. Once you've figured it out and once you're down the path, it's easy. But the thing that I can let people know once they've got themselves all twisted in a knot, this is a lot simpler than what it appears right now, right? And it may not be easy for you, but it really is simple.
Well, I'm not on the hunt for a mate by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, well, now you're like, I need a break.
Well,
and I get that. I mean, there's balance in life.
I've had to break. There needs to be some boundaries that I need to set for myself, and I'm setting them as to what I'm willing to tolerate, what I'm willing to not tolerate, what I'm willing to do, and what I'm not willing to do. And I don't think any of that is unreasonable. I should have expectations in a relationship, but I'm not on the hunt for a date, for a partner, or anything. I never was. I mean, I was single for a decade, and was really only with a couple of women in 10 years, and I'm just not. I'm not what people think I am in that department. I meet a lot of women and I talk to a lot of women, and I'm a fun guy, so and I'm smart and charming, but I am freaking terrified. I'm terrible at the whole dating thing. Not good. Never have been. I'm terrified to approach women, so I'm like the in spite of what people think about me, I'm the least likely guy to meet a woman in a bar, in a laundromat, in a grocery store. I could see a woman in a grocery store. I'll tell you a story that happened to me today. I got heinously hit on more than I think I have been in 2.5 years by a woman who can't be more than 35 years old. Mm-hmm. And And it made me uncomfortable. And I wanted to ask more leading questions. Instead, I turned around and left. And she's attractive. And I was what's the word? I was flattered by her approach to this, and certainly by the things she said to me. But I was mortified. I had no idea what to say to her. Even though I was thinking them in my head, I'm like, if I'm wrong in anything I say, I'm going to look like a jerk. So I just left. I did not go any further. And I've seen this woman, 40 times. So clearly in her mind, this is something that's building for her to get up the courage to say the things she just said to me. But I'm too terrified to respond to it. All I said to her was, wow, that's really sweet. I'm just an old man. And, she's like, well, you look really sexy and, you look good. And she just kept saying these things to me. And I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ, I don't know what to do. I have no idea. She's probably 3 years, 4, maybe 5 years older than my oldest daughter. my family their heads would explode. So I don't know what to say, although I'm kind of interested now. Now I want to know. It's going to take me 80 more trips to that store to buy toilet paper to figure out what to do. I'm going to have so much toilet paper here, you wipe your ass until 2093.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with reapproaching, but there's also nothing wrong with taking some time to figure out where your head's at and you just went through something really intense. And I don't think that, you necessarily have to rush in. I know he hasn't asked the question yet. I've been looking.
Oh, yeah. And then his thing that said he wanted to ask a question.
Well, we're looking, John. We're waiting.
We're waiting, John. We're waiting for your question. Here, maybe it showed up on one of these other things here.
Nope.
No, I don't know.
He forgot.
He forgot.
All right.
So now when I'm trying to look for a new way to approach myself in my life, to learn to be honest with myself and be fair with the people I care about and fair with me. So here I am with this book, and I'm going through Psalms, right?
Yeah.
And here is where I have a problem. Let me see. Hold on. I had this pulled up here. God darn it. It was this one particular, well, it was in a whole bunch of them, but, oh wait, that's right. These pages are so little. So when facing problems, okay, this is Psalm 3, what do you say? 3:3?
Yeah.
That's
Chapter
it?
3, verse 3.
Okay, chapter 3, verse 3. When facing problems, traits, suffering, and death, we may feel like giving up in despair. David ran from his beloved son, who threatened to kill him, knowing there was no hope. There was no hope. I can't look at how small the print is. This is a 2,500 page book. I'm going to go freaking blind.
Anyway,
there it
is. Knowing there was no hope except exception in God.
Except in God. Okay, so here's where it starts to lose me. Okay, so the Bible has this really amazing way of giving people hope, and direction. Then every sentence ends with God, or every sentence starts with God, and it says the only way through it is with God. Well, if we're trying to give people hope and say you can solve problems on your own, why does there have to be a God? Why can't it just be great words and great ideas without adding God? We're going to come back, and I'm going to make Felicity answer this question because I'm really curious about the answer. I'm not trying to be negative on the religion thing here. What I'm trying to do is understand.
It's a great question.
Yeah, of course it is. Because I'm the DAG, and I ask great questions. Don't I?
Sometimes.
We'll be right back here on the DAG Show with DAG and Dr. Felicity. Well, hopefully that.
Standing on the corner, staring at the street. Can't you tell my legs and scars on their feet? Living this way just does not seem right. Small children with their hands out for some food. We turn our heads and think their behavior's rude. We don't understand the man is white. Mama told me, she said, well, son, that's the way it goes. Little children eating out of garbage cans. Mommy and daddy, they're all living in the rain. I can't turn my head, say I feel no pain. You see pictures, say it isn't right, but you won't commit to winning such a fight. This democracy drives me insane. Mama told me, she said, well, son, that's the way it goes. And I don't know which side of that street you live on. And I don't care which side of that town, that say it come from. All I know is it's not right every time I say I have to fight. Look in the mirror and say it's okay. Everywhere I go, there's so much more to show. That's the way it goes. Mama told me, she said, well, son, that's the way it goes. And I don't know which side of that street you live on. And I don't care which side of that town, that say it come from. All I know is it's not right every time I say I have to fight. Look in the mirror and say it's okay. Everywhere I go, there's so much more to show.
All right. Thank you for the great potty break and your patience, everybody. That was me, the Darren Edwards Project, and the way it goes from the album 1997, Read Me. Anyway, so we're talking about God, okay? So we're talking about Psalms. Well, this is what I'm drawing from anyway. And, when facing problems, trials, suffering, and death, we may feel like giving up in despair. David ran from his beloved son, who threatened to kill him, knowing there was no hope except in God. And every one of these, chapter 1:3, chapter 1:4, it's God, 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 God. So if we're going to teach people that we have to take responsibility for our actions and say that religion is so important, why do we have to constantly keep mentioning God? Because then we're just giving them another crutch, aren't we?
No. So first thing I want to do.
Because what's the difference if we're going to blame if we're going to look for hope from God? And I know where I'm going with this. So this is a long path we're on here. Go
Oh,
ahead.
yeah, it is. First thing I'm going to do is that was the explication of Psalm 3:3. That
Right.
was not Psalm 3:3. Psalm
No,
3.
Psalms-
Well, I
right.
want to read it.
Okay, go ahead.
But you, O Lord, are a shield for me, my glory, and the one who lifts up my head. Okay, so I just wanted to do that first. Now, here is the answer to your question. Okay? What it's implying is that if you have a problem, God's going to help you. Is that not what you're getting from this?
Yes.
Okay. Now, if you are somewhere where no one can hold your hand, no one can explain this to you, you're out in the middle of I don't know where, or you're with a bunch of people who don't know jack about God, God may himself appear to you in a dream, send an angel, come and explain stuff to you, solve your whole problem himself. Okay? That could happen. It's a possibility. But it's
I have
not.
clearly I
wait. But you have to remember the first thing I just said.
Okay.
If you are somewhere where no one can explain it to you, so you already are disqualified from what I just said. I mean, God could still do it, but he doesn't likely do it because we were created interdependently. Not independent, I don't need nobody. Not dependent, where you solve my problems. Interdependent, where we help each other. Okay? Now, the Bible is created, and the system that Jesus set up was that we would disciple each other, which is the process of I have figured out how to get my life together. And now I help other people get their lives together. It could look like being a life coach like me, having a therapy background like me. It could look like that. It could just be I help my friends. You know what I mean? Because I'm an electrician. I just help my friends. I explain things to them and everything like that. So it is designed for that. It's designed for that.
But here's my thing.
It's not designed for you necessarily to figure everything out without having to ask a question.
Okay, so let's talk about the transition generationally amongst people, and the way they live, the way they raise their children, so on, etc. So there was certainly a time, and I grew up in a time where it's Sunday. Put on your Sunday best. That's why it was called that. You're going to look nice. You're going to go to church, and this is how this is going down, and you don't have an option. Now, you go to St. Patrick's Church, okay, which is a wonderful church, but you'll see half the people dressed, and the other half kind of casual, okay? So each generation kind of his in my opinion, dumbed it down to going, it's an exercise as opposed to an experience. Okay, so that being said, that's only going to get worse because generationally, and we talked about this earlier in the show, well, actually, we talked about it before the show about how they're indoctrinating children. Schools are indoctrination camps now, telling people what to think. We watch this whole thing with a professor trying to convince a white professor trying to convince a black man, a black college student, that when he looked at a picture of a white woman and a black woman standing back to back, that he should have saw a difference. When the young man said, "I see two people chilling," the teacher was pushing and pushing and pushing for 2 minutes to say, "See the difference." When Martin Luther King clearly stated, "I cannot wait for the day when we do not judge people by the color of their skin, but the content of their character." So my point here being is that generational mess that's going on in the educational system is going to wipe God completely out of this. And it also makes it completely hard to go, you need to take action or take responsibility for your own actions. But this is where a majority of the population fails. When we keep telling them that there is a solution and it's intangible, other than in your heart and in your mind, okay?
Yeah.
Religion is in your heart and in your mind, and it's in this book, and it's important. I'm not trying to minimize it. But when those are the only options, and then they pray and they don't get, there's no resolution,
Right.
they lose faith.
Sure, I would too. No, faith is very practical to me. I don't teach it like that. I'm not interested in any of that intangibility stuff. I mean, yeah, I'm not.
But this
I'm
is
very
all,
practical.
this whole book, the only way that this book is tangible is if I internalize it and use it.
Correct.
If you go to church and you say, listen, I can't make my mortgage payment, I can't pay my car payment, I can't find a job, and you pray, you're not going to get a job, your mortgage payment, your car payment paid at church on Sunday. That's not what it's about. But it's become, since we're taking these things out of schools and we're taking this out of so much of what, you know, they want to take it off money and God we trust, this, that, we're slowly wiping that out. And the church, none of the churches are changing the way that they're presenting this to people.
That's not true.
Well, I don't know. The Catholic Church ain't. It's same preaching.
I had a Catholic priest on my show last week that rocked my world. That man was amazing. I mean, God is getting hold to some people and letting them know how to speak into our generation, right? And to speak
that's
into
what
what
I'm
we
getting.
need. Yeah,
That's what I'm getting.
And
at.
that's what's necessary because again, what it's designed to do is to have you read it and say, okay, it looks like there's help available, right? Now you go to someone who seems to believe this stuff and say, now, what am I supposed to do with this? That's exactly what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to go to someone else and then ask, how did you apply this? I don't get this. How am I supposed to work this in my life? Right? And then there are actual answers to that question. That's what I do. That is what I do. So that's what it's about. But that's what this was designed to do. Now, what's interesting is, let me tell you a little bit about my journey. About 3 or 4 years ago, I began to be very dissatisfied with some of the things I was seeing in my church. And what I was particularly dissatisfied first, that some of the things that the Bible promises, they were not happening for me.
Like what?
For example, the Bible says that God will supply all your needs. Well, sometimes
That's ridiculous.
It says it. So I was not having all my needs supplied. My needs weren't supplied. Like sometimes I would even be able to hear God telling me to do things.
We couldn't
But
even
these
get
things-
toilet paper 8 months ago. That's a need.
Okay. Well, I never ran out. But anyway, so all I'm saying
Did
is,
you just get irritated with me?
well, I'm just telling
I'm
you, I
teasing you.
didn't, because now I understand how that works. But 4 years ago, I didn't.
Right.
So I'm like, how is this? And I've been going to this church over 2 freaking decades, and I'm like, I sometimes don't have the things I need. So what is that? Okay. So I had that question. Then the other thing that pissed me off was that it seemed that people around me at my church who believe the same thing I do, which is what the Bible says, were somewhat satisfied when it didn't always work out. And I'm just not like that. Like I'm more like, I think it ought to work. Otherwise, why did he say that? I don't get that. So what I did was I took a step back and I'm like, God, you're going to have to explain this to me. And it kind of got to the rubber meets the road place when 2.5, 3 years ago, I'm living at my mom's house. I have no savings. She's not charging me anything. I have no plan. I have no way to get out of there. It was a few years after my divorce. I ended up back at my mom's place with my kids. And I had this thought. if I do not figure out how to get out of here, my children will not believe in God in a couple of years. And well, they shouldn't. Because the things we've been learning from this Bible and the things they've been teaching us at the church are not happening. So I'm like, okay. So I said, you know what, God? I put the responsibility on you. Because here it is. I've been doing my best all these years. I cannot figure this out. I have the intelligence you gave me. I mean, basically I'm saying this is your fault. If you want my children that I've raised in this thing for all this time to believe in you, you're going to have to figure out how to get me out of here and how to get this stuff working. That's where I'm at about it. And in about 20 seconds, because God, this is what I've learned about prayer. Don't even bother opening your lips until you're passionate and until you're like at a rubber meets the road place. When you're passionate and you're clear, go ahead and speak then, because that's when it's like, bam. So I don't even pray anymore unless I got something like that, or if I feel like God wants me to say something. But other than that, I don't. So anyway, that's how I am. So let me tell you the rest of the story.
How did God solve that problem?
So I told you that I have the ability to hear from God, which is this. I'll have thoughts, and I know it wasn't me because I know how I think. But then I'll have a thought like, oh, I never thought that before in my life. So I've been able to hear God, but I still wasn't able to solve my problems, you know? So it was like I had to get very clear, very specific, like this is the problem, and I'm not taking responsibility for it anymore.
Wait a minute. Hold on a second. And this is where this is where I get, because when you beat your head against the wall long enough, sooner or later the answer comes to you that it hurts. So is it really an issue that God spoke to you, or you just wised up about what needed to be done? Why would you not take responsibility and ownership of saying you wised up, as opposed to giving credit to
here's what I know.
Something that's not.
Here's what I know.
Tangible.
You don't understand my brain. I do. So this does not intimidate me at all.
No, I'm not trying to intimidate you.
I know you're not, Darren. I'm just explaining to you why I am like totally confident in what I'm saying. I know how my brain works. I know how I think. And when I have things come into my brain that are not felicity, I'm not going to call it felicity because it ain't. And I know that. And I don't care who doesn't know it, who does. I don't care if you ever believe in God. It doesn't matter to me.
So wait a minute. Let me ask you a question. If you were sitting down washing your hands.
You haven't even let me finish my story, though.
Sorry.
I know it's a little long, but let me just tell the rest of it.
Go ahead.
Okay. When I got honest like that, and I got clear about the problem, it was like 5 seconds later, I heard this voice, start packing. I'm like, whoa. I got all excited. Like, something's going to happen. So I started packing. Like, we're going to be moving. We're going to get out of here. And in the process of packing, I felt like I should give away a lot of stuff. Like, you don't want to make this hard on yourself. It's going to be kind of fast. Just get rid of a ton of crap. You're not using it. You haven't used it in so long. You know, gut the storage. You know, Johnny, it was at Johnny's, one of his garages or whatever. Gut it. Got rid of so much stuff and everything like that. And that conversation with God happened in April or May. And October 1st, we moved into our place. I have not had any problems paying my bills. Everything is update, on time, everything like that. And that is so new. I do not have a history of paying bills on time. I have a history of effing everything up. I have a history of getting kicked out of places, which I had to confront all of that too. That was my stuff. But the thing is, I have figured out how this works. And that's what I teach people. That is what I help people. That is why I am a life coach, because you should not be a life coach if you do not have a life that anyone would want. So the first thing you do is you have to figure out how this thing works. I mean, I have a gift of wisdom. I have a gift of counseling, you know, but that you have to figure out. It's like having a a financial advisor whose money is in the crap hole, or like having a fitness instructor who's overweight. You wouldn't do those things. So you've got to access someone. And this is why I say life is simple. You find someone who is accomplishing the things that you have not yet. And then you say, how'd you do that? Now, you got people that do things that don't know how to explain how they do. So, okay, that's not my person. But most people who've accomplished things kind of know how to tell you how they did it. But if they don't, then you find someone else who did. That's the whole thing. All you do is you look around and you look for someone who has accomplished something you have not yet. Now, here's the very interesting thing that people misunderstand. The Bible is not a book of right and wrong. It's not. This is the disappointment people have. They're like, I'm a good person, that I should have a good life. That has nothing to do with it. It is a book about humble and proud. The reason why this is simple but not easy is because most people are too proud to just go to the happily married couple and say, how'd you do that? I can't seem to hold a relationship, like, help me. Most people will not humble themselves to ask the question. So now they want to call it difficult to meet somebody. It's not necessarily difficult. It's that you would not humble yourself. Again, some people don't know how to explain what they've done. So you may humble yourself to ask, and then they tell you the wrong thing, or they clearly don't know so you have to ask someone else. But there are enough people out there in happy relationships. Just keep believing that you will find it. Now, I was in a situation that I was surrounded by people who had nice lives and money and da-da-da-da-da, but they didn't come from a place where God helped them do anything. They just went through a natural process of going to school, getting a good job, or their husband has a good job, or maybe their parents had money and da-da-da. I wasn't in that. And the Bible talks about you don't have to be born in a good family to do well in your life. The Bible says that God can help you. The Bible says if you're sick, you can become healed. You don't have to have a great gene pool or whatever like that. There are promises in there. And I was one of those who needed to access a promise. If this thing is true, I need help. Because my parents cannot do it for me. I did not end up with a good husband that was going to help me. He wasn't even paying child support at the time. Like, if this is going to happen, we're going to see if miracles are possible today. And that's where I was at. Otherwise, bull crap with all this stuff. I mean, if it's not true, fine. You know, maybe I'll figure out something else, or I just won't, or I'll just be, you know, whatever.
Maybe you would just stay on the same path of thinking for yourself and taking onus in the mistakes and creating resolution to your situation. I mean, listen here. I wasn't reading this with my recent situation.
You're just looking at life.
I'm just looking at life, and I guess that's kind of where I'm going with this. Is that, you know, and I wasn't looking. When I was doing very, very well in business, I wasn't reading this. This just came here this week.
But that's why I'm saying not everybody needs it for that. But like you said, everyone's going to come to a rough spot in life that you can't figure out by yourself.
Sure.
And so what I'm saying is there are principles and laws and things that God has put into the earth that can help anyone. So if you did not come from a good family, if you do not already have wealth, if maybe you didn't come with a great set of genes and you're always sick all the time, the playing field is level when it comes to God because he loves all of us and he has a plan, a good plan for all of us.
How do you approach the argument then why 4 billion people are starving if God really cares so much about everybody? Because they don't believe, they don't even have access to running water, much less Bibles.
Well, the Bible says that he's put in everyone a desire. Desires.
But we're talking about half of such a large.
Have you ever heard of someone who came from nothing, from like some backwood of nowhere, and made something of their life?
Okay, but we're talking about a large swath of billions of people who don't have those options.
So what's the difference between those people?
And people who live in the United States?
No, I'm talking about people from the backwoods of Australia somewhere with nothing who make something of their life. You've never heard stories like this?
Yeah, you might hear of one in every 10,000.
So how does that happen? Why?
Because they were
happen?
closer to resources that were usable.
Nope.
Whoa,
It's not always resources.
This is where.
Well, then I'll bring stories. I'll bring stories about it. Because
you'd have to
miracles-
bring
I
a
will.
billion of them, because there are literally people, men, women, and children all over the world starving to death, that live in Christian countries, where the only thing they have is churches.
Do you think life is fair?
That's not. Hold on. See,
You're
that's a
acting
cop
like-
out. To
no,
me,
you're
that's a
acting like life
total
is
cop
fair.
out. Right now, what we're saying, because he's sitting here in America going, well, life isn't fair. Of course, it's not fair. It's definitely not fair for people who live in other countries, where if God is there to protect them, and governments do not, but God is always good. We're going to read this book, this one right here, and we're going to say that God feeds us these opportunities. I'd like you to go read this to people who live in these countries.
I could go talk to anyone.
But you could never convince a billion people that this made sense.
Then that's on.
In fact,
You don't know that, actually.
in fact,
I don't receive
hold
that
on,
from you.
let me back this up. The facts are that in a lot of those countries, this book is read to everybody, and they're supposed to be grateful to starve, because God says so.
That's what? There's nowhere in there that God tells you to be grateful.
No. I didn't say it says that in the Bible. I'm saying
it definitely doesn't.
No. I did not say that. I'm saying in those countries, remember the people, I'm talking about the people preaching it.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can interpret words about 100 different ways. I could put together a sentence and you can interpret it. Listen, I've been married 2 times in my life. You know how many times my wives misinterpreted everything I've said?
Right.
You've done it. I've done it. They've done it. We've
Right.
all done it. We can all twist the words up. So when you have leaders telling people, don't worry, God will look after you, but half the country is impoverished, we can go to Africa and I can make this example clear as day.
And there are also nations in Africa that their GDP has gone up because of people that actually believe this. Not people that are trying to twist it for their own purposes or keep people down, because religion is a way to control people. Religion can absolutely
Kind of what I'm getting at here.
Religion can be bondage. So let's separate.
In other words, telling people that it's righteous
Or
and
telling
it's good
slaves
to be
that God wanted them slaves.
it's good to be poor and it's good to do this because you're doing God's will. So my problem here is when you go from country and nation to country to nation, you have a different, how do you say it? There's a different motivation in the way the word is spread. In
Sure.
other words, so you can go to an impoverished nation, let's say in Africa, and say, well, listen, you're doing God's will by being poor. That's what your sacrifice is. You're there to sacrifice and have nothing, while those are the people with the money saying it. Then you come to this country, you can't pull that shit off in America. So America, you kind of have to create a kind of a new narrative. It's going, well, listen, we're all doing good. I mean, in this country, there's nobody in this country that's impoverished that is
Right.
fathom poverty.
Right.
No, the poorest person in the United States living on the street, being screwed over by immigration, a military veteran living in a fucking sewer, cannot fathom living next to a river full of piss and shit and garbage with no clothes on.
Right.
For his whole life, since birth. Not even the same.
Yep.
Not bashing military people, guys. I'm being real here. So the narrative, depending on the environment, changes. The narrative is different in San Francisco than it is in LA.
Yeah.
It's different than it is in I just saw some videos of Austin, Texas that are having all kinds of problems with garbage and homelessness. You know, it's very different than San Francisco.
Yeah.
You know, so the environment changes. Imagine how it changes across the pond. And then we use this book to kind of spill or spell a narrative on people and go, well,
we're talking about two different things, but Jesus actually addressed this. In the New Testament, Jesus said that the traditions of men make the word of God of no effect. You're talking about the difficulties presented by religion. I just told you a story of the power of the living God. And those are two different things. Two different things. People have taken those that have had experiences of the power of God actually changing their life. And some people build a religion and a business around it. I have no interest in that. I don't give a crap about any of that. I care about people that need the actual power of God to move in their lives. And I know how to help people. Anyone who has had God move in their life in a miraculous way can help another person. That's what Jesus came here to start. He did not come here to start a business of something, of religion where people are using that to enslave other people, to tie them, to get them to pay their tithes to them and do all of those types of things.
Okay, so let me ask you this. So we're talking, you know, and I kind of started this off on a generational outlook on religion, okay? So we know in the 40s and 50s and way beyond, you put on, you know, way before your Sunday's Best, you even back in the wild west, you know, in the 1800s, you put
Right.
You went to
They
church
had
all
respect for
dusty,
that.
you had respect, you went to church, you prayed to God. We come up here to these days where less and less people are going to church. The word of God to half the nation, almost half the nation, is non-existent. It's clearly, when you look at this from a liberal and democratic side, I'm not saying Democrats, please don't send me messages on that. I'm not saying Democrats aren't religious. I'm not saying that liberals aren't religious. I'm just saying they're not as equally religious as the other, as maybe the right. Okay? So, you know, we all fear something. I think most people fear some kind of a higher power, whether it's, you know, aliens from another galaxy to, you know, Buddha or God or Allah or whatever you want to call them. People have some fear of something. I don't know too many people who don't believe that they're just completely in 100% control of everything, regardless of what they say.
Life has shown
Because
you that.
I've had a lot of beers with people who went, oh yeah, you know, I don't care. No, I'm in control of my life. And then you get just one more shot of Fireball, and they're like, well, yeah, I'm a little bit afraid, you know. So, but you have. We're in a very weird time right now where religion is being used, which religion has always been used, you know, in especially in acts of war, you know, societally,
Yeah.
you know, in history, okay, because there wasn't television, there wasn't news 1,000 years ago, there wasn't any of that shit 100 years ago, so 120 years ago. Now the media has kind of grabbed this. It's really changed it. And we still have a large swath of the world, a bigger swath of uncivilized people that don't have access to these things than we do of the civilized societies, especially when it comes to free nations, that even have any access to any of this stuff.
You know, the great thing, though, about what you mentioned in terms of what has happened in America, and even, you know, beginning in Europe and stuff, just sort of the breakdown of religion, the sort of people moving away from the churches. The great thing about that is that a lot of this religion was crap. And so people are still crying out because they have needs. And those that have had their needs met are able to help those who have had needs. So it's not a problem. People leaving the church and stuff like that, these churches need to be left. Thank God the doors have been shut on a lot of them, and hopefully a lot of them never reopen. Because what we need are people that can actually minister out of the place that Jesus ministered, which is Jesus had an experience with God.
John Clivio just brought this up. Jesus didn't like religion.
Exactly, and I don't either. That's what I'm trying to tell you. You've been talking about the dangers of religion, and I think it's dangerous as well.
Okay.
What is totally different is an experience with the living God. Totally different.
But who's the living God?
The one that can solve a problem you can't. The one who created a world you don't know how to create. You didn't create this place. So you didn't make all the rules, but God did. And so once you understand the rules by which he created this world, you humble yourself and you live under those things. And it works really smoothly when you work under the rules of how God created things to go. And it goes really terrible when you don't.
Okay, so in me challenging you on these things, I'm not trying to aggravate you. Just so you know, what I'm trying to do is create a thought process of where non-believers who have no interest in religion, Catholic, Lutheran, Baptist, whatever, Christian, whatever it is you want to be, when I get into these conversations, I want to have a response, okay? So you keep talking about the living God, and God isn't living. So what is your response? I mean, he might be living in your heart, he might be living in your mind, and...
No.
Okay,
it's more than that to me.
Okay, well, no, to you. My point here
right,
is,
it's more
is
than that to anybody.
Hold
on,
here,
there's
wait a
more.
minute.
It's
You're
more
not letting
than
me.
that.
Wait a minute. The question that young people say, or the statement that young people make all the time, there's literally no proof of Jesus' existence, other than words in this book, which is a fabulous book, which I love. And, you know, we can dig up dinosaurs from 65 billion years ago. We can find people, you know, the Iceman from way before Jesus ever existed. But we can't find Jesus and we can't find God unless you search in your soul. So it becomes a belief system. And this is the argument that young people give me. It's a thought process. It's not a real thing. So how do you respond to them? You're not responding to Dag. You're responding to them.
No. This is how I respond to it. I am not interested in theory. I am not interested in a philosophy. I am not interested in having some existential argument. But what I'll tell you is this. People that know me, talk to me, and receive help from me, all of them begin to desire to have a Bible.
You're not answering the question.
I'm talking to the other person. I'm not talking to you. So I'm talking to you about experience. Here's the thing. The man with the experience is not at the mercy of the man with an argument. People can come argue to me all day, but I was on my mom's couch with no savings, no plan, and now I live in a beautiful home. I was the one that was not able to afford anything and could not pay my bills on time, and now everything's paid for, and I'm the one that can explain how it happened. I am not at the mercy of someone who wants to argue with me. I'm not at their mercy because I know how to make life work, and I know how to make someone else's life work. And when people talk to me, like, I no longer push. I don't push Jesus. I don't push anything. But when someone has a problem, I'm able to help them solve it. And every single person that accesses me to get help with their problems without me mentioning it, all of the sudden says, you know, I was kind of thinking about getting a Bible, or I was thinking about starting to read my Bible again. How does that happen? There are things that happen that we don't understand. There are things that happen that we can't explain. There is a God, whether you want to believe in him or not. You didn't create this world, so who did? You figure it out. I don't care. I don't care about explaining it to anybody. But I'll tell you what, if you've got a problem, I can help you fix it.
Well, I mean, you know, again, these are questions that I'm partially asking, but they're questions that half of our population is asking. And if we're not going to answer them in a way that, I asked you that question and you didn't answer it.
Ask it again, because I think that I absolutely did answer it.
You did not, because there is no proof other than a cloak of Jesus' existence.
Okay, let me be more specific.
There's no proof of a human living God.
I will be more specific on my answer.
Well, hold on. Let me finish, because I want to be very clear here. What I personally understand is different than the question I'm asking, okay? Because that's up to me to make that choice as to how I internalize that. Young people are asking the question, prove Jesus existed, prove there's a God. And you can't. And then and this is where young people get angry. And when people on the left get angry with the people on the right about being religious. And nobody ever wants to answer this question. So I'm going to pin you against the wall on this. If God existed or Jesus existed, you'd be able to show us, okay? Number one. Number two, God, I'm exhausting myself. And I'm losing my train of thought. I had the question right there. Totally lost my train of thought. Derail.
I will try to, if this isn't the answer, you can reapproach.
Yeah.
Proof's in the pudding.
That's not an answer. That's like Nancy Pelosi answering a stupid question. That was ridiculous.
What do you want God for? Why does it matter if we prove Jesus exists or not? What's the point?
Now we're getting somewhere here. Okay, now this is what I'm getting at. This is what I'm getting at.
What's the point?
So what's the point? Well, this is what young people want to know, because if people who believe in God and people who are on the right are going, well, it's all about God, and when God we trust and this and that, and they're going, well, we care about people's feelings, and we care about people being homeless, and we care about illegal immigrants. And if you care about God, you care about them. And then you go to them, well, we care about them, but there are rules. There's rules to life. Well, and then you say, well, God would want to help them. That's what they do. They throw their back at you. They go, well, God would want to help them. And you go, God does want to help them, but we are a sovereign nation, so we have to have a set of rules. Well, then prove to me there's a God. And then they don't believe. This is what the Catholic Church has fucked up forever. They don't reach that. They'd never answer the question. How do I ask this? If God exists, okay, other than in your mind and in your heart, beyond that, how would you convince a 15-year-old liberal girl or boy who's going to a school is being indoctrinated in everything against that belief system that God exists? How would you do it? What would you say to them?
I can't and wouldn't if they don't have a problem.
What?
And I have no interest in doing it. If you bring me someone who does not believe in God, I have no interest in convincing them.
But a lot of people who are God-fearing people believe that if you don't have an understanding, at least a little bit of God, you will automatically have a problem. And that's the part that
I don't agree with that.
But that's the part that the younger generation finds offensive. Because maybe you don't, but a million other people behind you who are Christians or Catholics or Lutherans all do.
I don't account for them. And I don't give a crap about them either. I do my work. I'm here for something. And it's not to answer for people whose brains don't work.
You can't answer the question about God that I asked you. So if
I have no interest in proving God to anyone who is not humble. Because if you have a problem that you need solved, that you can't fix.
That's a problem for me because...
Well, good.
No. I'm going to tell you why it's a problem for me. Because then you get to pick and choose the rules based on my answers. And that's bullshit.
I just told you the Bible is a book of humble and proud.
Right.
So if you're not humble, you're not going to hear it. You're not going to understand any of this. The only time you're going to understand it is when you're like, I have a rock in my life I can't lift. And if I don't lift this rock, I can't get over there, and I actually need to get over there. So, like, can you help me lift this rock? Yes, I can. All right, how do you help me lift this rock? And then I show you. And then it's going to be
Give
stuff
an example.
from the Bible.
See, this is the
Like
problem with
everything-
religion, and when people talk about religion, this is what always holds me back. And I'm literally begging here to be convinced.
Yeah, I know you are, but here's the thing.
But when I
was
asked,
much more convincing to you when we were talking about specific things, but now that you're being all esoteric
I'm not
and all
being
that
esoteric.
No, but you are. If I talk to you about the relationship stuff, or I talk to you about something you care about, an actual specific thing, I can show you how this works.
this is
but
a
when we
book.
talk about
This book is wait a minute.
It's
This book
meant-
is 2,500 pages long. Do you know something in here? From what I see so far, 98% of it is unspecific. It's words and ideas, and I'm not saying it's bad, but you interpret it, and then you talk about a specificity.
because that's when it makes sense.
But well, then explain the rock to me. That's very specific. So how?
Rock is anything
So if
that-
I say there's a boulder in front of me, it weighs 20,000 pounds, I'm not going to be able to help you move a 20,000-pound boulder.
but no one cares about that. Like it
So
it
that's
has
what I
to
mean.
do with,
That's the problem with
I
religion.
was just using a metaphor to explain
Sure.
if you have money that you need, if you want a relationship, whatever it is you want represents that boulder. It's something that you can't move. So let me tell you this foundational thing. You know, the Old Testament was written mostly in Hebrew, and Hebrew is a language that is more experiential. So if I try to explain this cup to you from the Western model, we talk about volume and what it's made of and maybe who made it and things like that. And then in a Western mind, we think, well, I know this glass because Felicity just explained to me this glass. But in a Hebrew state of mind, you don't know this glass until you know what to do with it. And after I've put it to my lips and drunk the peach iced tea out of it, now in a Hebrew frame of mind, you understand it. You don't understand it because you can describe it. You understand it because you can use it. And what religion has done is proven over and over again that just because you can explain something doesn't mean you know it. And there are people out there that are hurting with problems that actually need to be solved, that don't need some type of history lesson. They need to understand, how does this work? Make my life work.
Like what? Give me an example.
I did. I was
Give
on
it
my mom's.
to me again.
I was on my
okay,
mom's
but that's
couch.
your example. Give me another example.
Okay.
Because your example is an epiphany in most everybody's mind. Your example is a wonderful story,
give you
but
all
it's an
kinds of-
epiphany.
But it's also
Do you
any
understand that
testimonial is
do
someone
you
else's.
understand that an epiphany and a religious experience are almost freaking identical? I had a religious experience. I had an epiphany. They're identical. One's religious, one's not.
and here's the point. Until you have yours, it's never going to mean what
So
it was.
if Susie had the exact same epiphany as your religious experience, hers would be less valuable?
No.
Is that what you're saying?
No. Once Susie has the epiphany,
Or are you trying to say that she didn't have an epiphany, she had a religious experience?
once Susie has an epiphany, she's going to look at this and be like, now I understand what that means. Now I understand. Once you know how to use it, it's like, now this is all
But
making
see,
sense.
but see, a lot of-
because it makes sense from the inside out. It doesn't
This-
make sense from the outside
This
in.
is so wonderful. This book is so wonderful, but it is a book of common sense. It really is in so many ways. Oh, hey, don't throw yourself in the pit of fire because you'll burn to death.
But I
Hey,
wonder why
don't
they
be an
keep
asshole
mentioning God,
because
though.
don't be an asshole because people will think you're an asshole and it'll work against you. You know, I mean,
It just
so
has
many
this
things are so
troubling
basic.
part about talking about God, a whole lot. That's the only troubling part about it.
It really
but
it's
it's just
kind
as
of
much
because
common
because
sense.
you're trying because all I'm trying to do here is prove that this is why a large swath of the population in this country, I can't speak to the rest of the world, but in this country, because the majority of the world is Christian. You got Christians and Muslims. They make up the biggest swath of all religions in the whole world, right? My concern is my thought here is that it gives this idea of a false sense of hope that, if you just go ahead and pray, things are going to be solved. And that's what I was addressing to begin with. And young people don't see that. And as society, we're having a problem sociologically here in this country because in order to maintain a certain societal existence, you need a growth rate of 1.8. Okay, we're like at 1.4. And then we're infiltrating people from other countries here in droves. This place in 50 years will not even resemble the America we grew up in. It won't. It just won't. Historically and factually and by a simple fact of numbers, which numbers never lie, this place 50 years from now will not look like the America that you and I grew up in.
Well, it barely looks like the one from 50 years ago. So
And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but it's changed. This is why we're in this situation politically. There's so many factors at play here. It's just not the president and Kamala Harris, and it's a fucking mess. Mm-hmm. So when you let things spin out of control, to try and convince half the people that it's spinning out of control is a near burdening, impossible task of doing so. But the way we're approaching the religious aspect of it never changes. So I'm not saying that anything you're saying is wrong. I'm not saying any of your belief system is wrong. I'm not saying any of that. What the fuck are we going to do to change the way we promote the idea? Because how this fucking book ties to the formation of this nation, the greatest country, this will not be the greatest country in the world. It'll be just like every other country in 20 years.
Yeah, if we do not get back to our roots. So the thing is, you read it and it says, just pray, right? Just pray about it. The only problem is if you don't know how to pray. Well, isn't that simple? Yeah, it is, but you got to talk to somebody who's actually prayed and seen a result.
All right, let's do this, Felicity. I love that. This is, by the way, I loved how heated that kind of got. It's kind of heated. We're going to play another song. We're going to be right back here on the Dag Show with Dr. Felicity Joy and me. We're going to continue to talk about this. And if you don't know me, I'm Dag, by the way. We'll be right back here on the Dag Show.
Got some cool comments.
What's that underneath your pillow? Something that you think you need to have. Silent innocence can be stolen. Is that what makes you feel like a man? How do we get so socially degressed that we think else is okay? Take another life and all its happiness, we can find another way. Keep your money in your pocket, yeah. Teach children how to use their minds. So reward is grander when it comes from your heart. Something better in yourself you'll find. Kids are killing kids in catastrophic numbers. We can't stand idly by. Feeling sad about what you read is not enough. Take a good look. Another child has died. Oh no, oh no, oh no. gone. Nowhere left but the streets to turn. Children making their way. Oh no, the perfect fuel for hatred to burn. It's our dear man.
That's right. That's a little dag right there. Darren Edwards Project, 1997. Read Me Album, Silent Innocence. Back when I was on fire and aggravated and hated the whole world, was a total liberal.
Love it.
What a great conversation, because this is exciting, because I like challenging you and I like how fired up you get about things, and it's nice to see people commenting here.
Yeah.
And I just read a comment here, and I can't find it now. And it just, because it was a whole bunch of comments that sped up here, and God exists outside of time, space, and that wasn't it.
What was it about?
I can't remember. I'm reading so many different comments here because we have four different devices going here where comments are popping up. So, all right. Clearly, we're not going to get to Dag therapy tonight.
Aww.
Yeah, that's all right. Dag's doing okay. He doesn't need therapy today. I got it this past Thursday. So with
Yeah.
Dr. Felicity. So anywho, all right. So again, to come back to this, my concern would be, as a God-fearing man and a probably not that great of a Catholic, is that I see the young people not caring about religion, not taking it to heart the way it is. And what I hear from them is what I've told you. Okay, Jesus, you can't prove Jesus existed. You can't prove God existed. You can't prove this. You can't prove that. And blah, blah, blah. And I understand their point and I understand their argument there. But what is going to be the new direction, okay? Because I'm not 100% sold on the whole thing as a Catholic. But I'm reading this book because I'm going to be 56 years old. I'm smart enough to be able to realize what they're trying to say here. I'm reading between the lines. Why? Because I've lived in a long life and I made a lot of good decisions. I made a lot of bad decisions. So I can read this and go, oh, that applies. I get through one sentence. When you're 25, you ain't going to get through one sentence, go, well, I don't even understand what that means because I haven't lived long enough to really experience why this should matter to me. You follow where I'm going here?
Totally.
So how do we, in a society that's gone to a proliferation of growth as a society where you need just to sustain your culture, 1.8 in proliferation, we're at 1.6, which means our social and cultural being is declining in the United States of America, and in 30 years, it won't be the same. It'll most likely be a majority Muslim and Hispanic that live here, and then but then everybody goes, oh well, it's nice when we all interact, and but then it just becomes one culture that is the same as the rest of the world, and this is where you see people talking on the internet about about the whole world becoming the new world order. This is exactly what's happening. When you look at the Muslim culture, you look at a proliferation of 5.7 because you can have multiple wives, so they have 17 kids in a household. And here, where we were at I can't remember what it was, 1.7 or something like that, which maintained our cultural integrity for all of eternity. or 1.8, if we're not at that, our culture dissolves and new cultures come in and overcome it. Mm-hmm. And if you don't understand what I'm talking about, use your Google. I've done way too much work on this in 6 years. But anyway, so the same thing applies. That same principle applies to religion and Catholicism. In the United States, religion as a whole is on the biggest decline it's ever been on historically. It as far as how rapidly people don't give a shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So how do we fix that?
Well, I'm going to pull in the theme with the young people because that is really kind of what we're talking about here.
Right.
And the reason that we're having a problem with the young people is because of exactly what my sort of existential crisis became is like, God, I've spent like all these years raising my children a certain way. They actually believe it right now, but it's not going to be. Why is that? Because I was smart enough, and you talk about taking personal responsibility, I was smart enough to recognize that eventually there has to be proof within your actual life. So what happens, and what a lot of people who even were raised in the church, is something's happening at church, but something else is happening at home. If you are not living this stuff, both places, if you're not showing your children how this works in their life, don't be expecting them to believe it because they got to get out on their own and make it happen. So you got to teach me what's going to make it happen here. And so that has been why it's been on the decline, and it ought to be on the decline. If you don't know how to make this stuff practical, then move out of the way and let the people who know what they're doing do it.
Do you think it's more I hate to use the word progressives because that is become such a political term now, but just more of a progressive ideology in the way that the clergy teaches religion?
I just think for me, it's just more practical.
But reaching out to young people going, hey, man, it's okay. Let me tell you something. When Brant sent me this, Brant's not a guy who's pounding religion up anybody's rear end. You know what I mean? It's just, we don't really talk about it, but then sometimes something comes up and he'll bring it up. And he's just not one of those guys. Mm-hmm. And then there's people who just, can't sleep at night unless they drove it so far up your rear end that you can't sleep at night, right? And those people are really annoying. Those are the people, if you're trying to learn, or even give it any kind of a chance, you don't want to anymore.
Absolutely.
So what is the balance there where we can say, because I believe it's a good idea to fear something bigger than us. Now, whether that be God, giant silver round spaceship, Mr. T, whoever you think that needs to be, personally, I think it's a good idea that we think that we're just not the end all to be all. Mm-hmm. It's pretty arrogant to feel that way, I think, Mm-hmm. I'm not sure I 100% believe in aliens. I don't believe 100% in ghosts, blah, blah, blah. But there's a part of me that says, well, but what if? And that's the thing that we want to light the fire in younger people to go, but what if? Well, so how do you sell that?
The important thing, again, super simple. That's why I repeat myself a lot. The important thing about what you just mentioned, the fear, is humility. It's not just the fearing thing in and of itself. It's the actual humility. That's what produces what you're wanting to see. When it comes to my children, the reason that they believed in God then and they still believe in God now is because I'm real practical in how I do it. Now, when I talk about how
it had to be a product of their environment. They didn't
it's an
6-year-olds don't wake up knowing about God.
Of course.
It's a product of their... Yeah.
I taught them. I didn't just let the Sunday school
I just want to be clear. Remember, it's just not you and me we're talking to. We're talking to everybody who's going to watch this.
So, it's not... I didn't leave it up to Sunday school. Like, it was my job.
Right.
So, I taught my children about God. But I've been very practical. I'm just real practical in the way I do things. And so I use examples from my life. People have different styles. Other people are great storytellers. I mean, there's more than the one way. I'm just telling you my way, and I believe by doing that, it'll awaken in you as you keep going down your path. It'll awaken your way. But I've always been more practical with my kids. Let me tell you something that was kind of worked very well. I saw this video and it helped me see. Sometimes you do the right thing, you don't really know that you're doing it. I watched this video, this guy named Nas Daily, and he does all these videos on Facebook, and he has a lot of these stories of people who have come from absolute nothing and made something of themselves. But anyway, he talked about why he doesn't eat pork. So he was raised Muslim. He does not practice anything from the Muslim religion. And he said, like a lot of my friends who are also Muslim, right? And none of us eat pork. And worldwide, you will find that. You'll see these young people, they do not practice jack, but they don't eat pork. He's like, I finally figured it out. Because they started so young with that thing. And they made it age appropriate, okay? Whereas with the no smoking and no drinking and no sex before marriage, they waited too long. Because we don't do that. But the stuff they started with in our formative years, we still practice because it shaped the way we thought about it. And so that was something I lucked up on with my children.
I got to tell you, it's very hard to trust a human being who doesn't eat bacon. That's the most delicious meat in the history of meats.
Yum, 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 yum. You know I'm trying to make a point.
I know. I'm just messing with you.
I made a really good point.
It was an outstanding point. No, and I get it because.
But anyway, that's what I did with my kids. So I didn't mean to.
You made them not eat bacon?
What happened was Disney, they were watching Disney, and they were starting when my kids are like 4 or 5, they're watching Sweet Life of Zach and Cody or whatever, and the little 8-year-old wants to date the 12-year-old. And I'm like, holy smokes, you're introducing this to my... So I had to come in and I'd be like, oh my gosh, dating.
Was this a story? Is this a cartoon or something on my life?
It's just some kind of Disney show. You know what I mean? And it's a live action. It's people. It wasn't cartoons.
Oh, okay.
Or even when we would watch cartoons and they would kiss, I'd be like, oh, let's not watch that. You know, that's for married people. And I didn't freak them out, but I was real cute about it. I was age appropriate about it. Then when they got older, we would talk about that stuff. Like, when do we want to kiss? Like, what is dating actually for? There's always got to be a goal when you date. You don't just want to date around. You got to have to know what you want. What do you want? You want to be married. You want a nice family. We talked about these things, always age appropriate when we did them. So now, instead of my children falling into the trap a lot of teenagers do, my children kind of stood back and were like, let me watch what's happening here. And they see their friends getting all jacked up. And my daughter came to me at 16 because I had told them they could start group dating when they were 16. And she's like, Mom, I don't even want to date. Because my friends have been sneaking around on their parents since they were 12, saying they're not dating when they are. And they're all emotional all the time and upset. And so broke my heart. And now they're in with this. And she's like, I don't even want it. And so now she's got a lovely boyfriend at the age of 18. I love their relationship. It's really something to behold. And my children have just been able to stay out of some of the crap because quite frankly, the other parents waited too late to start talking about this stuff. Now, I would have too, but it was just when I was watching Disney with them and I'm like, oh my God, they're trying to shove this down my kid's throat. So I started early.
Do you know the biggest problem in our maintaining our cultural significance is men and women having children later in life. Mm-hmm. So there's also an argument that can be posed that says being stupid is valuable to your cultural significance. literally.
Yeah, it could be, except for the breakdown of family and what it's done to the black culture has not been wonderful. In the 70s, you had 70% of fathers in the home, and now we've got 20% of fathers in the home, and that has not been helpful to us. The promiscuity, the sex outside of marriage, all these
But
babies.
they
and it
weren't.
hasn't
They
been
were
helpful to
having
the-
sex at the same age in 40s and 50s as young kids. I mean, people were getting married at 20 years old and maintaining successful marriages for 50 years in the black community.
It's not about getting. I'm not an advocate of getting married older, and I just told you I believe my 18.
But having children if you're a couple and you're waiting till you're 35 or 40 to have children,
that's not a good idea.
No, it's a terrible idea because instead of having 2 kids, you'll have 1.
Right.
And this is what fucks up the cultural significance
That
of your
has nothing to do though
society.
with what I was talking about.
Well, no. What I'm trying to do. Well, yeah, it does because it has everything to do with that.
Okay, so I was mentioning how I encourage my children to wait, but
Right.
also my daughter.
That's where
at
this
the
came from.
Yeah, my daughter at the age of 18 has met the man that
Right,
she's
and she
probably,
said she doesn't. But she did. But you said that
At
your
the age
daughter
of
said when she was
16,
16 she didn't want to date.
Right, which was
well,
a
when
good
we were
decision.
16, okay, this is where I'm going here. When we were 16, we were already banging, and we were maintaining. We back in the 60s and 70s, we were at a 2.1, 2.2. Now, we could all sit back now and go, that's terrible. 16, 17-year-old kids were having children, but it maintained our cultural significance.
So what I'm saying is, by me following the more biblical road, at the age of 18, my daughter has already met the man that she's probably going to marry, which will probably have her having the 2.1 kid. So you can also avoid the banging.
Well, she's
and
got to have
avoid all-
She's got to have 2.8 to make up for the freaking losses we're having right now.
Well, we'll just get in there and try to get her to do that. But anyway, the point is that you can follow a biblical way of doing things and
I
avoid
get
a
it.
lot of the pain and still end up in the right place. So
See,
she
this
didn't
is-
need to start
yeah.
dating when she was 12 to end up in the right place.
Honey, I'm not saying this under any circumstances. What I'm trying to merely do is point out that when you stretch out the timeline and you go, okay, we were here there, and we were here at this point, and we're here at this point. This is the deficiency. This is what needs to happen to get it to there, to maintain. You got to do it. It's kind of funny because when you think about these kinds of problems, nobody wants to solve them. But let's say you fish. Okay, you like to fish on the weekends. Or you're a guitar player and you're in a new band. You will spend all your free time learning that song. Or if you're a fisherman, you will spend all your free time learning that pole lures and how to work that depth finder. But when it comes to maintaining our society, when it comes to maintaining our happiness with the people that we love, when it comes to being a better person for society or our family or the people we love, we put this much effort into it, when we will spend all the rest of the time on the extracurricular nonsense that provides nothing to us ourselves individually. In fact, a lot of times hurts us, and sociologically is destroying the very fabric of the society in which we love these freedoms. And I know I just threw a lot of shit out there, but if you really look at this and you've done as much homework on the numbers, I like the numbers.
Yeah.
See, you might like the words and stuff better than me, but I like the numbers, and the digits never lie. And that's what I'm afraid of for society. And it all does tie to religion and different ethnicities and different people and so on, etc. And all these different ideals.
Listen, God is very much into the preservation of culture. And if you look at the way, you talk about God's chosen people. And
You mean the Bible. The Bible's into culture.
Yeah, the Bible's into culture, but let me say that, and I can say God's into culture because I don't mind saying that. So when God had his chosen people, he taught them fundamental things and put in the culture and the way they do things that have made them a prosperous culture. So to the point that even today, Jews are still make up the most of the 1% of wealth in the population.
Correct.
And it's in the culture. It's in the Sabbath. It's in the way that they run their lives. It's in the very culture and the fabric. So I believe that
I'm
those
getting a
things
yarmulke.
that-
I'm going to wear one. I'm going to start wearing one.
It's all in that yarmulke. There's a magic potion. But yeah, no, I mean, I just really think that the things that we need to preserve a good society are the things that the Bible teaches. So and if we look at it in a practical way, we can show our kids that, you know what do you want? What do you want out of life? Okay, let me show you it's in here how to get that. And that's what I believe. That is what I believe. It's how I train my children, and it's why they're still kind of into it, because that's how they approach the Bible. How do I get what I need? How do I help my friend? How do I, whatever it is, you know what I mean? They're looking at
What do
these
you think
principles.
God would think of Eve if she had a pink mohawk?
So I think God likes pink.
Holy shit. 10:01, sweetheart.
10:01.
Listen, everybody, thank you so much for joining us here.
And for your participation, we got to
Oh.
look at these comments later.
I love this woman to pieces, Dr. Felicity Joy. Pain in my ass sometimes, but I love that she's a pain in the ass, and she's always looking after me, and it's very, very remarkable and sweet. I'm very, very fortunate. And this was a great conversation. I don't think this ends here. I think this is a conversation that should be ongoing.
It's just beginning.
I really don't feel like I got all my answers, but I got maybe 6 out of 10 of them answered.
He wants all the answers.
I want to get. I went 2 hours. I want all the
Really?
damn answers. Listen to me.
Really?
You know who I am. I'm an absolute nobody. Listen, always wonderful to have you here. Hold on.
You're listening to
That was the
Dag.
wrong thing I just played.
It's the
Hold
Dag
on.
Show.
Let's go to that one.
Dag.
We're going to
Here
change
comes, here
that.
comes.
It's just music only. So welcome. Jesus.
He doesn't know
Thank
what
you
to
for
say.
joining us on the Dag Show tonight with myself, Dag, and Dr. Felicity Joy. And we need to talk more about this, and I think we should, the more we talk about these kinds of things, the more opportunity we have to do some great things. Maybe it'll inspire somebody to watch us, go, hey, listen, I got an idea. Let's put a little event together, a little town hall or whatever. It doesn't matter if you get 10
I
people,
love
5
that.
people, or 20
I love
people.
that.
But give people an opportunity to talk and feel and express what they're thinking about these things, because then maybe together we can create a movement that says, listen, this is important. Learning to be a great person is important. And, learning to take the time to learn something you didn't know or understand and hear it from you or somebody else or myself or whatever the case may be might be a really wonderful way for us to really participate.
We are the culture and the society that we're trying to preserve, and our voice matters, and one person matters.
And it's
And
all
so
brought to
I
you by
love
the
that.
Dag Show. That's
feel
not
free.
arrogant. Listen,
Yeah,
I'm a marketing whore. I'm sorry. No, this would be really cool.
Reach out to us, though, and feel free to reach
Absolutely.
out to me as well, because I do have programming. I do have some unique ways that I help people, private coaching and counseling like I do with Dag here on the show. But I actually have a class that's just offering only. It's just a gift God has given
tell
me.
them where to go.
Yeah, so reach out to me, Felicity Joy, or you can go to Virtual Vision U on Facebook. That's like Virtual Vision University, and that's my class starting next Friday, a week from Good Friday. So yeah, I just love helping people.
Join
and I
the
love
doc
them.
and let's, listen, we don't all have to agree on everything, but we should all come to kind of some middle ground where we go, we gotta save ourselves, and we gotta
love
be
that.
good to one another, and we
That's
can
right.
we can always do that. So listen, thank you so much for watching the Dag Show. Thanks for paying any attention. Tomorrow night we'll be out, Heather and I and Cindy, the new edition. You see
Awesome.
you see Cindy,
Very
the
exciting.
beautiful woman. She's going to be out with us at Tailgaters in Bolingbrook and shooting Electro Retro. So come and visit us, say hello, give us a high five, and yeah, we look forward to you guys always following us, and we really, really, really appreciate any time you give to us. Always remember, be good to one
each
another.
other. That's
Yes.
so nice.
It's the most important thing in the whole world. I love you all. Peace out.